Welcome to the Exes and Babies podcast covering the good, bad, and the ugly of co-parenting. I'm your host, Sydney Swanigan, aka the Co-Parent Whisperer. Let's get into it. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. Thank you for joining the call and being willing to share your story. There's a lot of people who I've asked to tell stories, like to come on the podcast and share, and they're like, I can't because I'm worried
Right.
about the repercussions. So I'm always so grateful for folks who are willing to come on and share their story for the sake of others. I don't judge people who don't because I get it. It can, depending
Yeah.
on parent, things like that, it can be a little scary. But before I keep going, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Yeah. I'm Farah. Probably known as Empress Farah on YouTube and Instagram. And well, I'm a mom, of course. And I I'm from Atlanta, originally born and raised in Michigan, Detroit to be more specific.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what you fully need to know about me, but I
Perfect.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Talk,
I'm
what,
sorry.
what are some of the things you do? Like, I know you said you're training for something. I don't know if you want to share that here, but
Yeah, I'm currently training to become a swim instructor, swim fitness and those things, and perhaps also teach swimming to like children and things like that. And maybe even some lifeguarding because I just want to switch over into a career that would be more laid back and stress-free because I just can't do the stress anymore. And I want something that's a little bit more flexible also.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. And
I
I
think
love
a lot of
swimming.
people are evaluating like what's going on in their lives and how they can move into spaces and do things that are more fulfilling. Which I love for, people at this time, I feel like are more likely to do that than probably in the past, right? It's like you gotta get it done, you don't ask questions, it's okay to suffer, but I don't know, I love that our generations are thinking more about like, no, I want to be comfortable. They did all the suffering for us, thank you,
Pretty much.
on the shoulders of giants. But how can we actually really enjoy our time here?
Yeah, yeah. Enough of the stressful stuff for me. I've done it all. Worked in office, I've, worked in retail, marketing, you name it. Can't do it anymore. Can't do it anymore. It's enough. Yeah, that's where I'm at in my life. Yeah, I just want to find a place of peace
Mhm.
in every aspect of my life. So just making those transitions.
I love that. And on the topic of peace, moving into the co-parenting space, what are some things that you and your co-parent do? Well, let's take a step back. Tell me about your co-parenting experience so far, roughly. Like, when did you start co-parenting? How old is your child? Things like that.
Well, we started co-parenting probably, I want to say somewhere around maybe after the pandemic, I want to say. So maybe around 2021, 2022. Um, because we weren't divorced. We weren't divorced.
Mhm.
But in terms of that separation, romantically, that had already kind of had dissipated in a sense, or just period, because we were dealing with some things that we just were not able to overcome. But nonetheless, because of the time period of, the pandemic and, our child was young,
Mhm.
our child was, I want to say like they were like pre-K,
Okay.
pre-K.
Okay.
Yeah, pre-K going into kindergarten, that kind of thing. So, it just didn't feel like it made sense to be like, you know what? Let's part ways and completely you go here and I go there, and then we try all this chaoticness of trying to go back and forth, back and forth.
Right.
We knew that was going to be very chaotic for us, very difficult. Um, because of all the restrictions going on and changes with their
Okay.
work. Literally, like the pandemic literally affected their work, affected my work for sure.
Mm,
Um, no more being out in the field. So it was like, um, what can we do to just get through this
right.
and do what's best for everyone, you know? So it was a thing like, well, we separate rooms. You
Okay.
got your room, I got my room. Of
Okay.
course, our child has their room,
Hmm.
and we just function like a family,
Okay.
keep generally everything the same, but we're just not romantically involved.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
And that's why I transitioned with the word peace. Like, that sounds like you found your own peace. You created your own peace. Your
yeah,
co-parenting. That's
yeah.
really great.
Generally had to, because a lot of the friction was coming from uh the fact that it's like an obligation that I felt I no longer wanted to have and I wanted to release them from as well.
Hmm.
So that we can focus on what was more important, which was raising our son,
Right.
because kids don't ask to come into this world
Sure.
and we have an obligation to try to do the best we can to raise them and to not disrupt what's their normal for them
Hmm.
causing them, any type of chaos because, it was an adjustment for our child to go from being in pre-K in class, he was already kind of struggling with that because he's very much one of those kids that's a little kind of on the hyper side and he enjoyed being in school and all the socialness. But then it's like, oh, now you got to be at home all the time.
Right.
And now you got to do school online and now you're around your parents like all the time, you
Right.
know,
It's a lot
and
to change.
yeah, and so that means trying to get along more and things of
Mhm.
that sort so that we're not making like this awful example to him of family
Right.
and like I said, not causing our child to feel any type of way or
Mhm.
anything of that sort. Of course it's not perfect, but you know, it's we did what we needed to do. And
Mhm.
then the divorce happened,
Okay.
but it was like once again revisiting what makes sense, what
Right.
makes it, and for us it just made sense to just maintain what we were doing because our child was still young and also the economy started getting really interesting
Speak
because
on.
we bought the house, the prices were reasonable.
Right.
After the pandemic, all of a sudden, prices started changing,
It's
and
Atlanta, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so like our house goes from being literally being one thing to being worth twice as much as it was when we bought it and then continue. And we're watching, like real estate prices go through the
Right.
roof. And for both of us, we both knew we can't rent again. We can't do it. It's
Right.
like we had already did it for so many years, so many years.
Mhm.
And it's like for us, when we getting to that point of buying and owning a home, we were just like, yeah, I can't go back to renting. Even if it seemed temporary, for some reason, I think we kind of got this thing like, yeah, we don't see where the prices are going to go back to being reasonable anytime soon. And we were right. They just
Yeah.
continue to
Because they
skyrocket. And
haven't.
so,
They probably never will, honestly. I mean, I don't unless something crazy happens, which with this world today. But anyways, I won't get into that.
yeah,
That's another podcast. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, we're like, well, unless we move out of state somewhere, where it's, prices are going to be more reasonable.
Hmm.
Um, I couldn't figure out where people were moving to down here because I see neighbors sell their homes, but I'm like, where are they moving?
Right.
I
Where
couldn't
you
figure,
gonna go? Yeah.
yeah, where are
You
you gonna
said your
go
house
with a
doubled in price. I'm like, that's good in terms of
yeah.
now you could
In
sell
terms of equity, oh yeah, the equity looking good, looking good. But it's like, okay, um, but the prices weren't. The
it.
prices weren't. They weren't making sense at all. And financially, it just kind of felt like, or are we going to dig a hole for ourselves,
Right.
trying to, do something that isn't really necessary
Okay.
right now? Or can we just ride this wave out and see, where things go from there, and so literally that's what we've been doing, riding that wave out.
Right.
Um, you know, because moving out of state just wasn't going to do it. For
Right.
his job, the company where he's at, they're only located in a few places
Okay.
and they're a small business. They're a very small business. For me, I'm more flexible,
Okay.
but it's also the thing of I grew up with both of my parents, and
Okay.
so did he.
Okay.
And so we didn't want anything different for our son. We
Yeah.
didn't want him to, experience growing up with, the parents are like in one state and one is in another and having to do all of this extra stuff just to, for him to see both his parents. So we're like,
Mm,
still young, maybe when he's older,
yeah.
who we'll see, So a lot of factors,
Right. That's beautiful. I love that y'all were able to come up with a plan that worked for you and get creative about that because this economy does suck. This economy
Yeah,
does suck. And I remember when I first, that was part of the reason why I stuck with my ex longer than I should have was because of money. I remember
yeah,
like thinking like, okay, how much am I paying? And if he leaves and that income goes, like how's that gonna impact me? I
yeah,
remember being really concerned about that. But then when certain things transpired, I'm like, I'll have to figure it out because I'm not about
yeah,
to deal with this.
yeah.
And so
I
when some
needed
of those
that.
things transpired, I was very blessed and, had a great manager and stuff and was able to like, get a raise and things like that. And so, very, very grateful and was able to afford the place I was at by myself. And so it all worked. But again, I already made the decision. I was like, I do feel like sometimes,
Mhm.
sometimes the universe or God or, has to see you make that move and then things will, okay, you were serious. All right, like, let me help you out now. But so I do feel really blessed in that. But that's not the option for a lot of people. And I do know that like, or it's not a sound option for everybody to just like part ways right away. Because yeah, our kids will be impacted, especially, our kids rely on us to have our money, right? And that we don't have these, right?
Yeah.
So like holistically, it sounds like it was a better choice for you and your whole family. Now let me ask you this what it like you didn't like parts of each other, so that's why
Yeah.
you're not together, so to still
Mhm.
see each other maybe daily, maybe still see some of those flaws or things that like made you go crazy or whatever, like how do you manage that and what are maybe some of those things if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. Yeah. We're still the same people, except the funny thing is when you actually make that transition, it's something about the papers, the legality, I guess.
Mm,
Once it's officialized that you're no longer legally obligated to each other, or you officialize we're no longer obligated to each other, it seems like it took some sort of extra burden off
okay.
that maybe I think caused us to butt heads
Mhm.
far more than necessary. Because once you know someone's not obligated to you, you know that they could walk away at any point. And it's not to say that he would be irresponsible, like, I'm out of here, or I would, but it's like one of those things, well, what's keeping you here? What's keeping
Mm,
you here? It's a common goal. And so if you have a common goal, then I think it makes you be more on the same page.
right.
We didn't have a common goal before. It was just, I'm married to you, you're married to me, we're obligated.
Right.
And, me hearing things like, well, you're my wife, so you have to blah, blah, blah. And that would just make me feel,
I don't think
yeah,
I'd be ready for that role if I have to
yeah,
do that.
yeah. And I was like, yeah, that would like put me in a certain frame of mind, like, okay, okay, I don't like this. I don't like this at
Mhm.
all because, it's to me, when the marriage is no longer at a good place, obligation really becomes a burden. Really
Trap.
becomes a burden. Yeah,
Yes.
like a trap.
Mm,
And human nature is we don't like, no one wants to feel trapped.
at all.
It can make you defensive in ways that you normally wouldn't be.
Right.
So we're less defensive in a sense because um I don't know, it's like that burden is released. That burden is released. So it's like I'm here because I want to be because I'm here for something other than myself.
Yeah.
We're here for a greater cause. We're here for our child. We're here to do what's best for him.
Right.
So that puts a positive energy back into the dynamic that
Mhm.
really wasn't there before, you know?
So it made things
Um,
better. Okay.
yeah, ironically, not romantically though.
Oh, no, no. No, no. We'll keep
Not
you in there.
romantically, but because for me that ship has sailed. That ship
Um,
has definitely sailed because once certain boundaries have been crossed and I've, come to terms with people will be who they are,
sure.
because we're definitely at an age, people are who they are. And,
Mm,
it's like I'm not interested in trying to change anyone. And if you weren't ready to do the work, then by the time I say bye in that regard, I have already given you the time. You know what I'm saying? I've already tried to do the work. And,
okay.
so I don't want to revisit that. I don't want to revisit that. On
Right.
top of, I do see reminders of, oh, yes, here are the same problems we did have before.
Hmm.
Here are the same problems we did have before. So the reminders do pop up that the same issues that were there before,
Hmm.
they never really left. We just abandoned those issues because we
Hmm.
don't have to do it anymore. We're not together anymore.
Right.
We're here
Right.
for another cause. So we do on the occasion still have arguments or disagreements. We just try to be way more civilized about it. We're not perfect, but we definitely try to do better about it because especially since our son is getting older, he's even more aware than he was before.
Absolutely.
And he also has opinions himself, he's like, Mom, Dad, kind of thing. And we're like,
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
right, zip this, let's go on about our business and do what we need to do. Um, so yeah, yeah, I mean, essentially, whoever that person was before, they're still there.
Right.
But I did notice a shift
Yes.
in
Okay.
attitude. There's more of a willingness to work together for the common good of
Right.
let's raise this child. Let's do the best we can to ride out this wave, this
Right.
inflation, because yeah, yeah,
I hope everyone's
yeah,
listening because it is like the financial part of not getting along as co-parents is crazy. Like
yeah,
it is so expensive to be at each other's necks in courts and things like that. And so, or like you said, I mean, moving apart, which what if that works for someone or not, that's a personal choice. But yeah, the money part. And then when you're stressed about money, usually you stress it shows up in other ways and it impacts our kids. And so I love that y'all that's
yeah,
so smart. It's just so smart. It's just, I love that y'all were able to put those priorities. You're like, hey, our kid comes first, and we need to make sure we're grounded in like our finances and stuff and what makes sense. And we don't want to struggle. We don't want to, like you said, we're at the stage where we
yeah,
don't want to struggle. That's not cute no more.
yeah.
And so,
There are definitely moments though when I'm like, is this still worth it though? Because I
mm,
understand exactly where you're coming from, where sometimes things can get to a point where you're like, you know what? God willing, maybe I need to,
right.
maybe it's time for this situation to end and transition into something else because I definitely know this won't be forever. Um, he's aware of that as well. So we're definitely mindful to pay attention. Has this reached this expiration date or can this extend itself a little bit longer to ride out the wave?
A lot of
Because
uncertainty right now.
oh
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And so sometimes I remind him of that. I'm like, all right, well, good luck paying those bills out there on your own
Right.
because I'm like, I know what's going on. I have single friends that are parents also, and you know, they tell me from their experience and I'm looking at from their experience and whatnot. And so I'm like, it's a compromise. Either way, it's a compromise. But if it ever came down to peace of mind is completely destroyed, like just gone, null and
Hmm.
void, there is no peace of mind. And this is an absolute terrible example for our child to where it's destroying their peace of mind, then yeah, it would have to end at that point. And I'm not afraid to do it, if it comes down to that. So
Yes.
I do try to pay attention. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that. I love the way you think. And okay, but like Okay, come on. Dating. Because I don't know a lot of people who'd want to join
Yeah,
in on the fun with that. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. You're on that. Dating right now is something I put aside
Okay.
intentionally,
Okay.
because it was difficult, for lots of different reasons. I can't speak on his end of it. I do know that he has, had whatever personal situations he may have had,
Hmm.
but from his feedback, I don't think he finds it worth it either right now.
Mm.
So it's one of those things for me. I don't, and like I said, I'm not paying attention to whatever he's doing, but I did mention in one of my videos when I was doing an update on the whole co-parenting thing. I'm like, if he needs to go and handle whatever he needs to handle and hang out with some friends, or what, that doesn't bother me at all. Um, and we do have a boundary where I'm like, if I'm dating someone, it's none of your business. Because we did have a problem at one point in the beginning when I was dating where I didn't say anything, but for some reason he just knew. And, he was like, uh he was so immature
Okay.
about it. He was
Okay.
just so immature about it. But I think it was a
Also,
jealousy.
also, give us something. What did he?
It felt more like a jealousy, but it felt
Okay.
also like a brother or somebody teasing you, like,
Oh, he was
ugh, you got a
teasing.
date. Yeah, that kind of thing,
Oh,
but
oh,
a
where you think
jealousy
you going
thing,
looking all cute like that?
like a jealousy thing, which I can sort of relate to because it's like, why did you get to go have fun? You know what I'm saying? I want to go have fun too,
Right.
but the reality is, you're both not gonna be dating someone at the same time and
Right.
things like that.
You
So
seeing
I
it
think
up close a little bit.
yeah, but I think we're past that point. But intentionally on my end, I know for sure, I just kind of stopped really
Hmm.
paying attention to having a personal or dating life because yeah, it was a problem with people not really um they couldn't fathom the fact that I could co-parent under the same roof with an ex-husband
Hmm.
and there be nothing going on. Just
Right.
nothing going on at all. Like these guys literally they thought they were side pieces. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You are
Oh,
not what are you talking about? You're not a side dude. That's not me. That's not my thing. I'm
right.
not a player out here. I'm not, it was still the assumption that are you sure you're not still married? I'm like, do you need to
Mhm.
see the
Right.
papers?
It's public. It's usually public record. Go ahead and search the
You
database.
Yeah, like, do I
That's
really
good
have to be
advice for
out
people,
here?
but
Yeah, just
like,
like on some crazy stuff. I'm not for the streets, I don't, what I'm saying? Like,
you're
what
talking
is
to the
going on?
wrong one. I'm not
You
out
know,
here. Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, stop the projection. Maybe this is what you would do.
Maybe.
I'm not about that life. All right. I couldn't have the energy to be juggling men. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
where are they getting these ideas from that somehow I'm juggling him, I'm juggling them, and
Mhm.
I have time to be a mom and
Right.
have a time for doing any kind of work or anything. Like, where would I get? So it's to me, that just in itself, I found to be annoying
Oh, heck
and a
yeah.
hassle. And I just got tired of explaining myself to people who they hadn't even heard of co-parenting. They're like, what is co-parenting?
So it's really
Co-parenting.
foreign, the idea. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're just like, and I get it because I only became aware of the title of co-parenting. Like I knew about couples that would have this type of dynamic, whether they're
Right.
in the same household or not, just trying to make it work for the kids.
Right.
But it didn't have a title until more, I would say more recent years. I
Mhm.
seen a TED talk and I'm like, oh, so this is a thing. This is an actual thing and it has a title. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I knew this happens, but people don't really talk about it. I think because it was
Mhm.
taboo and people just want to keep their business to themselves. And they're like, what happens here stays here.
Right.
Even though people who would know in their own circles,
Right.
but it wasn't like some sort of thing where you're openly in a dating world. You're like, yeah, I'm a co-parent.
Mhm.
And, this is our situation and things like that. And um people in general seem to have a problem with, even if you're not a co-parent. Like, I don't know if you watch Pop the Balloon, that's one of my favorite shows. The
Oh
first
my
thing,
God. Yes, I've watched an episode. Yes.
yeah, the first thing they want to ask, so is the mother or the father still in the child's life? How close are
Hmm.
y'all? You sure you ain't still? You know, it's like people get the third degree just on
Right.
a dating show or just out in real life. And it's like, when did people become so paranoid about
Mhm.
people possibly still dibbling and dabbling or whatever with their exes and stuff? And there's a heavy stigma that, oh yeah, um, exes still deal with each other if they have a child. That's always been kind of a ridiculous stereotype. And it's like,
Right.
no,
No,
I
some
can't speak
people
for
do.
everyone. Some people do it,
But after a
but we
certain
ain't
amount of
all out
time
here.
and energy,
Hmm. We don't all want, we're not all doing this because for me, um, that ship has sailed.
hmm
So I don't have the interest. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Why do I still have to revisit the convenience? No thanks.
right.
No thanks. I think for some people, for me, sex is very sacred to me because I was taught it's a spiritual thing.
And,
I don't want soul ties with people that I don't have an agreement with in a positive relationship with or consistency with. So I've been celibate. I've
okay.
been celibate for the
Same.
last few years because um I'm not interested in sleeping with anybody who we don't have a real relationship or real commitment in some form. Like, you know, um I don't, yeah, and I just don't want to keep explaining myself. I figure God will send the right person into my life that will be mature enough to understand
Mhm.
everything is not all black or white. There's tons
Right.
of gray area. Once upon a time, when I was, in my early 20s, I had no clue about a lot of things. I thought it was all black or white, all black or white. No, it's
Mhm.
not.
Mhm.
There's gray areas in
Yeah,
every aspect
absolutely.
of
The
people's
whole thing is
lives,
great.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can't just paint this picture of, well, y'all must still be getting it in or getting it on. No, not at all. You can ask him, would you like to give him a call? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure if he hear from you, he could tell you, ain't
Right.
nothing going on. There's nothing
And if
going
they're
on.
really fixated on that, I feel like there's got to be something else going on for them because
Yeah.
that is a big thing for people, especially I think
It-
men with egos and all that. But I almost wonder if it's kind of like, oh, if you guys live together, I might have to see this person. I think people get really scared of this idea of having to come together. The fact that you even get along, they prefer that people that were completely separated, so they don't have to even deal with some ex, right? Whereas,
yeah.
I've there was a time where I was dating someone very seriously, and like we were going to go on a trip with my son. So I was like, okay, out of respect, and because we agreed on this earlier, I made sure he met my ex before we went on this trip, my child's father, and
Yeah.
they both were kind of like, do we need to do this? I was like, we agreed when we're in our right mind, like let's just stick to the
Yeah.
plan. And it went fine. But of course, there's a little bit of tension and discomfort, but because of course that's fine. We should be able to handle a little tensity for the sake of the child,
Right.
for the sake of maturity, and like make sure we're all on the same page about this child is a priority and we're gonna keep this kiddo safe and like we're gonna be cordial and we're gonna be adults. We all in this case we're all educated and stuff like that. So it's just like, come on now, we should be able to be adults and
Right.
fine. And so but I think some people are just like the idea, they can't even fathom, like they're making so many assumptions about that father, the other person, and what have
Yeah.
you.
Projection at
So
his best.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
people project a lot of their
Hmm.
insecurities based off of what they've been through and based off of what they know they can't have the discipline or the maturity to do. And it's like, why can't we be mature adults? It's like you said, we're educated, we're good people. Why can't we just be mature? Why can't we just get along for the sake
Our,
of getting along? Like, why do we have to go through these changes? Like, process your feelings
mhm,
and let's move forward.
absolutely. It's that simple.
I don't,
Or
yeah,
hopefully it would be. Um, absolutely. I agree 1,000%. And I mean, I'm not really dating, not really anyways. I don't know.
mhm.
I don't know. That's like a whole nother conversation. Like
Yeah.
seriously, like actively looking for my husband or what have you, because I just things like that, like you're saying, the assumptions, people can't, they don't have a lot of examples, truthfully. Like they rarely see
Yeah.
examples of people co-parenting in a healthy, clear, boundary driven way, you know? Um,
Right.
and so, but it's just so many other reasons too. But I do feel like there's people who get it. Like the people who I have enjoyed dating in the past are fathers and are co-parenting.
Okay.
So there's once, I'm coming back to Atlanta and we're gonna throw a co-parent conference out there next fall. And so
Cool.
there's going to be an element if there's going to be educational element, but there's also going to be some social time so we can all meet each other and
Yeah.
those special connections and bonds beyond just, being in a network happen even better. Because yeah, there's people who are going to get it. It's just not the day-to-day, everyday person for now anyways. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually, I think, a little bit more enlightening to me that you said fathers.
yeah.
Um, I did try to date one that was a father, but they weren't mature enough, but they were younger. So,
Okay.
um, but yeah, maybe that's what I'm not doing
Hey,
with
hey,
him.
you're
Being
doing
mature.
great. But yes, you're doing great. I am just so impressed by you, and I just love that you all were able to find some kind of solution that works for you. One question I am curious about is is your son clear that you guys aren't romantically together,
Yes.
and all that? Mhm.
Yes,
Okay.
I have like literally gone out of my way on numerous occasions to make sure he understand that because I told him I want him to understand the dynamic you've seen between us. This
Hmm.
is not um like a happily married situation because we're not married.
Right.
We're divorced and we are here
Hmm.
as a family unit, but not as a couple. We're
Yeah.
here to raise you and we're family, but
Hmm.
we're not together. We're
Right.
not together. And I make sure he understood that's why we have separate rooms and
Mhm.
that we don't, he's at, it's kind of funny because he actually, he's so smart. He's so smart. He gets it. Like I don't have
I
to,
usually do.
yeah.
If with parents like you who sit them down and kids can understand everything. I know people get like, oh, what if they don't understand like non-binary? Like that's gonna confuse them. Kids are
Yeah.
really smart. They can get a
Yeah.
lot of things. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, totally. Um,
If we help
I
them,
mean,
we did. Yeah.
yeah, I've even asked him at times, like, how would you feel if we were to live separate?
Hmm.
Because I'm preparing him for the inevitable of one day this is going to happen. This is not a forever situation. Um, and so I do ask him his feelings about things like, how do
Hmm.
you feel if we had separate residences? How would you feel if you was with your dad for 3 to 4 days, and then with me for 3 to 4 days, or if you only saw him on the weekend, or how would you feel if one of us was out of state
Hmm.
and you saw the other one for all the major holidays, and summer breaks and things like that, just to kind of get an idea of where his head is at.
Right. Well,
Whether these things
hey,
will happen or not,
yeah.
it's like wanting to know how does he feel about it?
Right.
And
Did he tell you?
he
How-
did.
Okay.
He doesn't prefer it.
Yeah.
He actually doesn't prefer it, which I understand because he's used to us both being present, both of us being here, and being able to run either one of us if he needs either one of us. Um, but in the times when we've had some really drag arguments, like drag out arguments,
Yeah.
that was like, are we going to continue this situation or are we not?
Right.
I still would go to my child and I'd say, our child, and say, hey, how do you feel about this if we were to go live in separate residences? Because I said, we're struggling to get along
Mhm.
and I don't, I don't want you to feel like this is normal because I
Mhm.
I try to let him know I don't want you to grow up thinking that
Mhm.
yeah, the argument or boundaries being crossed or disrespect, anything. I don't want him to feel like you have to stick this out
Right.
because, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Um, I just want them to have as much of a realistic but positive example as possible
Hmm.
of what's possible when it comes to being a family or when it comes to raising children or relationships versus getting out of relationships. And I
Hmm.
tell them all the time, under no circumstances does he have to follow in our footsteps
Right.
one day. If, when he gets married one day and he decide, and him or his wife or whoever decide that they're not going to any longer be together, I'm like, this is something we've decided to do,
Right.
and these are the reasons, but it's not something that you have to follow as an
Right.
example,
Right. I
kind of
love
thing. And I
that.
explained that to him because when I was a kid,
Hmm.
though my parents were married for like 20 something years, ooh, it was a very, um, it was a, what's the word I'm looking for? They definitely had their problems. They
Yeah.
definitely have their
Yes.
problems in their marriage. And so growing up, seeing them go through those problems,
Hmm.
um, the thing I didn't know was, well, it's not normal to argue this much. And this is
Hmm.
not an example of what marriage should look like.
Right.
And my parents did stick it out
Okay.
past, before so before they got the divorce, they did stick it out for us
Okay.
kids.
Yeah.
That's something
Also, they
that,
did end up getting divorced.
they
Okay.
did end up getting divorced, but they definitely did let us know we're
Okay.
still here because
Hmm.
of you guys.
Uh,
And we're trying to do the
so you
best we can
already,
do.
okay, you saw a little bit of,
Yeah.
oh, so you knew they had already said that they weren't maybe happy in their marriage.
Oh yeah. We knew from the arguments.
And
We
you're like,
knew from the
you didn't even have to
arguments.
tell us. We was right there in front of us,
Mhm.
but okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, without a doubt, the behavior, the not being around each other, those kind of things, we knew for sure.
Okay.
However, it was one of those things up to a certain point, it's like the I guess the separation of understanding just because this is the environment that you're seeing doesn't mean it's the norm or that it's
Yeah.
healthy.
Right.
you know
Right.
they didn't intend to make that example for us. It's just
Right.
they were doing just the best they could, like most parents do.
Hmm.
So it was one of those things. Growing up, we had to kind of gain that understanding
Hmm.
and make sure, okay, we have this understanding when I get married one day or when I'm in a relationship. um, these aren't things that I should look at as things, well, oh, not a big deal. My parents argued a lot. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
not going to make a big deal
Right.
about it. No, I learned it doesn't have to be like that at all.
Hmm.
You don't have to be unhappy. You don't have to be miserable. You don't have to deal with these things if you just don't want to deal with them. It's a choice.
Right.
It's so I try to make sure that our child understands this as well. That, hey, this is not an example of anything other than this was our situation.
Right.
You can go make your life what you want to make it,
It's
that kind of thing.
amazing.
Yeah.
You're an awesome mom. I love that.
I'm
I love
trying.
that. You
I'm
are, and by
trying.
that you already are. Yeah, that is
I think
phenomenal.
all the I think all the co-parenting parents are awesome because it's literally, yeah, you're making the sacrifice for your child and you're dealing with something that it is a lot to deal with, but
Mhm.
you're doing it for your child. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's
Yep.
like, you're awesome too. Like all the co-parents, but I think all parents, period, whether they're able to co-parent or not,
Right.
you're awesome. You there for your child, you're awesome. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Because
It's a feat. It is not
yeah,
something.
it's
Yeah.
not for the weak. It's
Oh
not for the weak
no.
at
Oh
all.
no. Oh no. I do almost feel like I don't know how to tie it in, but I see it like I feel like the things that make us co-parent well are the things that could make our country better. And not to
Yeah,
politicize this too much, but how
yeah,
can you not think of what's going on in our country? It's crazy. And well, no matter where you're at in the spectrum, right? But like, or if it's a spectrum. But anyway, that's sad to say, I wish that some of the skills that we need to be great co-parents were like taught to other folks and embodied. I feel like as a country we could get along a lot better, or at least exist, or not keep going backwards in certain ways, and focus on the things that maybe need our focus a little bit more. Like, I don't know, global warming. I don't know, something like that.
Oh
Anyways,
yeah,
so
yeah.
make sure there's no homeless people on the streets. I live in Seattle, so that's just whew, it's a lot.
Oh
So I'm
wow.
like, I would love
Yeah.
if we could just get over some of this other stuff that we've been challenged with for, so we could just move on to the things that, anyways, but yeah.
People
Anywho,
are so
co-parents are
divided.
gonna. I feel like co-parents could change the world, but yeah, no, I just it takes a lot. It takes a lot. So for people to choose to interact with someone they might even hate, they might really dislike them, they might really be hurt by them, traumatized by them, and someone like to still operate in a way where you can still parent your children together, despite all that. Like you said, is a sacrifice, and it is really beautiful and it takes a lot of perspective and maturity and like spiritual growth, I imagine, too, to be able to do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It
oh,
does. It does.
co-parents.
And yeah. And not beating oneself up when things aren't going the way you hope, because it
Hmm.
is not a cakewalk. It really is, it ain't for the weak.
It's not. It
And
is.
that's the other thing people need to know. Please don't think that co-parenting is easy. It's not. I
Mhm.
have friends that they really did not understand it. They still don't understand it, but then they're like, I do understand it
Okay.
after they've seen it,
Mhm.
and because a lot of my friends were like, why? Why? And I'm like, I have a greater purpose for this, and it goes
Mhm.
outside of myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not all about me. And, but it's I feel like anything, if it's worth it, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
However, once again, I do understand there are always like situations in which everybody can't do it the same way either.
Yep.
So everybody's not going to be able to co-parent under the same roof.
Hmm.
Everybody's not going to be able to co-parent at all. Some
Hmm.
people they can't do it. And I totally understand that. I totally empathize with them. I totally respect them doing whatever it is they have to do
Hmm.
um to raise their children and to look out for their own well-being, you
That
know?
part, that's so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think.
Maybe we can change the world though.
I
I
think
think it
so. If some segment of the world is going to do it, like we're trained to have to think outside of ourselves, think of that greater purpose, our children and such, and our own well-being, to get the job done. So yeah. Do you have any other parting words you want to share with the community?
um
Although I thought that was perfect.
I mean, I just think going back to what you said in terms of the world, I think the world, period, yeah, would be a much better place if people could just um do what's best for the greater good of all and not just for one,
Hmm. Yes, I
just
agree.
across the board. That's
Yes.
that's the mindset I've been rolling with, is the mindset I'm gonna continue to roll with.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep, yep. Moving in love and forgiveness and those things those ideas and principles I feel could serve in a lot of spaces right now. And so I appreciate you so much. I'm so in awe of what you're doing and how you guys are
Thank
doing it. And I
you.
appreciate you sharing here.
Thank you for having me, Sydney. I absolutely love your podcast and
Mm,
everything that you're doing. It absolutely is an inspiration.
yeah,
And I really hope this creates a whole wave movement, of encouraging people to choose more positive alternatives if they can,
right,
you know,
right.
in their lives and whatnot, however that has to come about or whatever. But
Yeah. Thank you.
this has been great. And
Thank
you're
you.
awesome.
Thank you. Back at you. I look forward to hopefully seeing you in Atlanta at some point.
For sure.
I'm not always there. That's the goal though. But no, I am there a lot and we'll definitely be down there for some co-parent stuff. So that would be cool to see you at one of those events.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Ooh, maybe
Let me
even
know.
having you on a panel or something. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe.
please do. Please.
Okay,
I would
cool.
love to. I would love
Awesome.
to.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much and have a good one. Thank you for watching. Please click like, subscribe, and share.